Greetings, friends. I hope you're well. Someone in the comments said I should relax more, so I'm relaxing. Some nice 432 tuned electric piano. All right. Welcome to the channel, folks. Welcome to the channel. So, today I wanted to just get a little deeper into some of the science worldview stuff in terms of alchemy versus modern science. So there's lots of channels out there talking about alchemy now. And it's great. It's good to see because it's beautiful. It's full of wisdom. And anybody who's seeking wisdom and spiritual knowledge, positive, practical spiritual knowledge, then alchemy is a great place to look. But very few of the channels that talk about alchemy, and in very few of the alchemy books, do they actually discuss what would be the elephant in the room, which is the profound difference in worldview between alchemy and modern science. There is this worldview clash, and one of them, which you will have heard me talk about before, is atomism. So in alchemy, everything is viewed as being made of ether. So ether would be like the omnipresent, eternal substance of space itself, the root of all manifestation, the kind of the primordial essence from which all things emerge. So in alchemy, this is considered to be a fluid. Like a very fine and delicate fluid-like substance. Now, with atomism, this replaces the ether with a granular substance called atoms, these tiny little hard, impenetrable, indivisible balls of matter, which fly around and bump into each other and make different configurations and so on. So what we have here is two different worldviews. In an ether model, everything is connected, just like in the ocean. Everything is part of the water. We're all part of the ether, so everything is connected, everything is one. But in an atomic worldview, everything is separate because it's all hard balls separated from other hard balls. The worldview that derives from these theories are completely at odds with each other. One is a separatist view of reality in which we're essentially all alone, and the other is one in which we're connected to everything in the cosmos. So this is a difference between a spiritual worldview and a materialistic worldview. So atomism is at the heart of all modern science. It is assumed that everything is made from atoms, and that's rarely ever questioned. I don't really see people questioning it online, although lots of other science gets questioned. It's rare to see people questioning the reality of atoms. But I think it should be questioned. And in my book, I propose that atoms have actually never been isolated or proven to exist to a satisfactory standard, at least not a standard that I'm satisfied with. And this implies a great many things, like, for example, that the whole atomic age is a complete psyop. There is never actually an atomic age because we never actually had the knowledge of atoms that we were told. It was just a theory. So this is one of the fundamental areas where alchemy and modern science are opposed to each other. Now, the other is in worldview, in cosmology. So alchemy is a geocentric cosmology in which the Earth is a stationary plane with a dome over it. But modern science is a heliocentric cosmology, where Earth is a ball, giant ball, flying through space and spinning around the sun and going through the galaxy and so on. This is another big difference in worldview between the ancient science and the modern science. Of course, if you've followed any of the flat Earth movement online, you'll know this has been a hot topic on the internet for many years now. And, there's good reason for it. It is, in fact, probably the most important philosophical question of our time is like, where do we live? It's really a question of the shape and motion of the Earth, whether or not the horizon actually curves into a ball and whether or not we're actually moving, spinning and orbiting and flying through the cosmos like we're told. The two theories in physics that really support this idea, this is the theory of gravity and the theory of heliocentrism. So those two, together with atomism, make up the theoretical view of the cosmos that we're taught in school, and it's really ingrained within us to the point where it's considered to be unquestionable facts of reality. But if you've ever spoken to a flat earther, you'll know that there are a lot of people that just do not accept any of this as being a fact of reality anymore. And I started getting into all this back in 2016. And if you don't know how someone becomes a flat earther, then, let me just break it down for you. So there's essentially three sources of information about heliocentrism and the theory of gravity. So you have your space programs like NASA and SpaceX and things like this. You have your theoretical physics, so your equations, your F equals G m1 m2 over r squared. You have your relativity and all this kind of stuff. So that's theoretical physics. And then the third source is actually science fiction. So, we consume a lot of science fiction, generally as a culture. We're always watching false images of outer space and heliocentric, models on TV and in movies and so on. It's the space programs, the theoretical physics, and the science fiction. Those are the three main sources of heliocentric propaganda. And, what we find is that the space program loses all credibility very quickly when you really start scrutinizing NASA and, all the images that they produce, which are, images, not photographs, artworks and composite images and computer-generated images. And you start looking for evidence of this heliocentric globalist worldview, it just falls away and you can't find it. So very quickly the space program becomes just something that you can no longer believe or trust in at all. And there's obviously tons and tons of channels that expose the lies of the space program and how they mislead us and all that. And I won't go into that right now. But needless to say, that's the first thing that happens. You sort of realize you can't trust what the space authorities are saying. And it's a logical fallacy to appeal to authority. So if you're trying to like prove the existence of the globe, you can't just point to a video from NASA and say, there's your proof. That's not how proving works. You have to actually like prove it using science that other people can verify. And all the NASA stuff is basically unverifiable and unfalsifiable and easily faked as well. That's the other issue, is like the stuff they put out is actually really easy to fake. But in reality, when you take like real photographs of real things, there's a lot of detail that just makes it very hard to fake. Once you lose faith in NASA, you only have theoretical physics and sci-fi left, right? So obviously you're not going to like base your beliefs on sci-fi because it's fiction. So it's now all hanging on theoretical physics to, keep the heliocentric dream alive. So when you start getting into theoretical physics, well, it all comes down to relativity and gravity. The heliocentric model and the geocentric model are actually equivalent in the real world. I call this isometric equivalence. And what it means is that whether you believe you're on a spinning ball going around the sun, or whether you believe you're on a stationary plane inside a dome, all the measurements are the same. Like everything you can measure is the same, regardless of what you believe about it. So there's an equivalence for everything in geocentric cosmology. There's an equivalent explanation in heliocentric cosmology. But where the heliocentrism really just fails is that there's no measurable movement of the Earth. And, physicists understood this. Even Einstein talked about it. There's just no way to measure that the Earth under our feet is spinning and orbiting and flying through space. By all accounts, it's completely stationary. It is only really through theory, through the theory of relativity, that they can justify believing that we're moving, when all measurements point to the fact that it's stationary. It's the theory of relativity that allows us to believe that we're moving, because through relativity they say, well, everything's relative, so even though you feel like you're stationary, you're actually moving and you just don't know it. A lot hangs on relativity, actually, and this is why Einstein and the theory of relativity is like, exalted and heralded as like the greatest intellectual achievement of like all mankind, because their whole worldview, the whole heliocentric cosmology, and the giant, the Big Bang and the ever-expanding universe, and all this stuff, like all hangs on gravity. Gravity is the linchpin that holds the whole entire science fiction view of the cosmos together. Without it, it all just falls apart, and the stars in the sky are just lights. Stars in the sky are just lights, the idea that they are millions of light years away, and these huge big objects with all this energy, like churning and everything, it's all based on the theory of gravity. The size of the universe, the distance to stars and planets, like all these calculations, all based on the theory of gravity. When you believe in the space programs, then it seems like, oh, well, it must be true. The theory of heliocentrism must be true because we went to space. If those things were real, the moon landing and so on, then that would prove heliocentrism. If those things are not real, the heliocentric theory is not proven at all. It's just a theory about the lights in the sky. The whole thing crumbles, and as I say, science fiction is not enough to sustain belief in heliocentrism. If the space programs are fake and the theory doesn't stand up to scrutiny, then there's no justification for believing it at all. That's kind of how people become flat earthers. You question the globe so intensely that it's no longer believable. And then everyone hates you, even though you're still the same person. You just read some stuff and asked some questions and now have a different view of the world. You get a lot of stick for it, but it is what it is. They say once you go flat, you don't go back, because how could you go back, right? It's like, why would you go back to believing you are spinning on a ball when you've already realized that there's no evidence anywhere that that's true? I still look for proof that I'm wrong. I still look for proof all the time that I got it wrong. Maybe the globe does exist. Maybe there was something I overlooked. If I find that evidence, I will, hand on heart, be like, damn, I got it wrong, guys, because I'm not actually attached to like how the universe is. I want to know the truth. I don't care what the truth is. I just want to know what it is, I feel like I've explored all avenues of this and feel quite sure that our world is stationary and enclosed. So it's not really just about flat or round. It's about enclosed versus open, right? Because the planet is just open to the vastness of outer space, but in the ancient model, we're actually enclosed in a dome, which is how we have like air pressure and stuff like that. So why do you believe you're spinning? You know that when you spin, there's forces that you feel. It makes you sick. It makes you dizzy, right? When you're going round and round, you feel centrifugal forces. You get pushed outwards, away from the direction of spin. Spinning is a very extreme state. They say you can't feel movement as well. Like if you're on a train, you don't know how fast you're going and everything. But I totally disagree. I think movement is felt. There is no felt movement in the earth realm. It's just a fact. So if you believe you're moving, you're believing in theories. So it's just important to understand this, because even though it doesn't really affect our daily lives, like we still have to go to work and pay bills and all this kind of stuff, it affects your self-knowledge, your knowledge of who and what you are and where you are. And, this is important on a spiritual level. So anyway, I hope that clarifies some things about where I'm at. Thanks for watching, folks. If you enjoyed this and are looking to dive deeper into alchemy and natural philosophy, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel.